So before we get into all the news today, we have good news from the front, confirmed by Zelensky last night, also confirmed about an hour ago from the U.S. representative to NATO. It appears that Ukraine has captured back about 160 square kilometers in the Donetsk region in this counteroffensive. To give Americans an idea of how big that is, I looked it up. It's about 2 Fort Lauderdale, Floridas, and or 1.2 Chattanooga, Tennessee's. And well, we knew something was going on the past couple weeks because there's been a larger than normal amount of Russian POW videos pouring in. Generally like 6 to 15 captured Russians at a time. The exchange fund, as they call it, replenishing the exchange fund. So we knew something was going on. But I wanted to talk about it here. This is in the center of Kyiv, right here. This is off the corner of Maidan, in the center of the city. And for each, if one of your relatives, is killed at the front or in one of these anti-terror operations, these people put a little flag here and they write the name of the loved one. A lot of times they leave a photo, as you can see. But I remember this when this was about 15 flags. And I don't know how many thousand that there are here, but I just wanted to walk you through it so you understand that, like when we talk about, the Russian fuel crisis and Russians waiting in line, for hours and they can't get, diesel fuel today there's a collapse in the diesel fuel supply chain in Russia. I mean, piece by piece, as we watch this Russian USSR 2.0 project, you fall into oblivion. There really is no more satisfying place to watch it than here in Kyiv, and that's because of the sacrifice that these people are making on a minute-by-minute basis. I mean, last night, if we would have stood here last night at about 2 a.m., the square would have been lighting up because there were Russian Shahed drones trying to target the city. And Russians are aiming at apartment buildings and people. This is just mass murder, you understand. And I know a lot of folks, over there, and I've got people from Australia, UK, United States, Mexico. I know you can't come out here to really see this stuff for yourself and get a true perspective of what really is the most black and white fight, that we've had since World War II. This is genuine evil. These Russians are here getting paid money. They sign contracts to come to murder Ukrainian people. And it's very different than all these photos that you'll see here. These guys are defending their families, their loved ones. I mean, this is a true black and white fight. And before I talk about the news, like I usually do, I would just like to give you some perspective or offer some. And
flag. That's good.
And as most of you know, it's not only Ukraine that's suffering at the hands of Russian terrorism. Today, we have Estonia in the past couple hours saying that 3 Russian MiG fighter jets came into their airspace, violating the airspace of yet another NATO member. This is the 3rd NATO member in the past 10 days that has had Russia test the waters, and NATO has failed every time. And it looks like they'll continue this policy until something really tragic happens. It's all a shame. If you remember, Turkey had the same problem, and they said, if you do it again, we'll take your jet down. And that's what they did. And they took down one of Russia's Sukhoi jets and from Turkish airspace, and that was the end of it. It hasn't happened since. So this was 3 MiG fighter jets apparently that crossed into Estonian airspace. These are the Kinjal carrying. These are very dangerous ones. They carry the Kinjal missiles, whether or not they're armed or not. I don't think it was released yet, but anytime one of these MiGs takes off from, say, Bryansk, Russia, we have a nationwide air alert all over Ukraine. And Ukraine's a big country, it's the biggest country in Europe, nationwide, because these missiles are so fast. It takes about 7 minutes for it to get from Bryansk to Kyiv, or about 2 minutes from Bryansk to Kharkiv, for example. And so it's a nationwide. All the kids have to go underground. It's a school day. You're advised to go down into the metros because you don't know where they're going to hit, and they're very fast. It's the one technological advance that Russia has. Really, it's one thing that Ukraine hasn't been able to produce yet. And so NATO just refuses to respond. This is on the heels of, it's basically a 10-day blitz of Ukraine testing NATO airspace. Started with Russia trying to hit Poland with 50 drones, 19 of which made it past Ukraine into Polish airspace. And according to Zelensky's interview yesterday with a Western media outlet, day before yesterday, NATO only managed to shoot down 4 of those. And that yielded immediately Sikorsky going to Kyiv then very next day to start to get things solved, because now NATO understands that this is not all, this isn't a game anymore. And Romania, Poland, they're just testing the waters. Really, it's an effort to get NATO to pile air defenses into these peripheral countries of Bulgaria, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Poland, Romania, so those air defenses do not go to Ukraine, because Russia has big plans for the winter, as they always do in Ukraine. They plan to slam the energy grid here to freeze out
Ukrainian families and the people that live here in order to get them to eventually love Russia. Apparently, that's in Russian logic. That's totally, yeah. That's how that's really how they think. It's it's just it's an amazing culture. But who is not laying down and allowing the Russians to walk all over them? Ukraine. We've got with homegrown FP2 missiles. Ukraine strikes the bases of Russia's most elite drone unit, Rubicon. This is a video from the past 30 minutes, and this missile has a short range of 200 kilometers, but apparently a 105 kilogram warhead, and this thing's pretty accurate. We'll just check it out. And this Rubicon drone unit, this is the elite of the elite. If you are in this drone unit, you get a very fat salary. And these are the most effective Russian drone handlers that they have. It's been a big problem for Ukraine. And now that we have our own missiles, or now that Ukraine has their own missiles, it's really changing it's leveling the playing field in a big way. So we hope to see more of that. This is, it's going to be really interesting because Ukraine's only ramping production on everything. So back on the home front in Russia, things are only getting worse and worse. We've got fuel crisis spreading to more regions. This is Nizhny Novgorod region. I'll show you what that is in a minute. Nizhny Novgorod region, gasoline has disappeared across the region. Local residents have found fuel at only one gas station for 88 rubles. So gasoline is now more expensive in Russia than it is in the United States. And which is incredible. You remember Venezuela, largest oil reserves in the world at the time, had their own fuel crisis because that's the nature of these authoritarian regimes. They can never figure anything out. It's always an absolute catastrophe. 88 rubles. The price has skyrocketed by 30 rubles in just a couple days. So Russia had elections, quote elections, and you see the videos from these. It's always pretty hilarious. Just ballot stuffing and little old ladies walking in with, whole bags of quote ballots, and stuffing these boxes and trying to give people the semblance of some kind of democracy. This was the governor's election, and how it works in Russia is governors are sort of like little czars. Putin sort of lets them do anything that they want in that region of Russia, and so they're allowed to sort of do anything they want. So these elections are a really big deal because you can get into office, and you can loot that entire region until there's really nothing left to get that money out into your wife's name in Italy or something, and bro down. And anyway, so they tried to keep the price down before these elections, and there was a lot of governmental shenanigans where they were releasing. Russia has fuel reserves, and they were apparently releasing them from the state fuel reserves in the past 2 weeks to keep the prices down. We didn't know about that until yesterday. One of the tricks, but now the market has a free hand, and we have prices just skyrocketing. And I'll show you. Anyway, here's Nizhny Novgorod. It's way out here. It's it's the Pacific coast has problems. It's the entire nation. It's the entire prison of nations that is Russia has problems now. And if you want to see the scale of it, let me show you. For a while, diesel was sort of immune. I wrote this morning, the perfect storm comes to the Russian economy as the quadfecta of massive tax increases, disappearing oil refineries, expensive war, and economic death spiral come to meet fuel shortages. Price of diesel on the St. Petersburg exchange en route to parabolic. Look at this. This is the past week after the elections. They just finally let it rip. Look at that. This is diesel. So diesel is a very, very big deal because that's the trucking industry. It's farming, harvests. It's a very, very big deal. Diesel is, so far we've got taxi drivers being hit, and they're just passing that on to the riders. But this is really going to cut into some core, very fundamental industries within the Russian economy, and it's going to be awesome. This is a parabola setup. It's going to be incredible. So we've got, anyway, so here's another region of Russia, Rostov Oblast. Some gas stations in Rostov are out of gasoline. At other gas stations, prices are 72 to 75 rubles for 92, and for 95, 80 rubles. And here's a sad, sad Russian. He's rather confused that it lists prices, but you can't actually buy any gas in the savage hellscape, which is the Russian prison of nations. So this Russian's very sad. He's very, very sad. He probably wasn't sad when Russia invaded Ukraine and began killing families, but now he's very sad. Let's see how sad he is. Oh yeah, he looks sad. That hat. It sucks to suck, doesn't it? Oh, Lord have mercy. What you gonna do there, buddy? That is a drag. All right, well, you can feel for him. Or not. This is pretty interesting. So one of the solutions that Russia has now, they've really been laying the hammer down, just boiling the frog, like announcing new tax increases, income, new import taxes, VAT taxes. They just raised the VAT. Well, they're about to raise the VAT tax. They've been slowly just adding these things. But this one's huge. So along with new heavy tax increases on the population starting November 1st, Russians will be cut off from foreign cars to raise money for the war. Moscow is hiking the tax fee on both new and used foreign automobiles to extreme levels. You know what I mean? Extreme levels. I mean, this is up to 50%. And cars are already very expensive in Russia. It's not like buying a car in the US or a civilized country. The result, Russia is slamming the door on BMW, Audi, Volvo, Hyundai, Kia, series of cars there. Prices on luxury vehicles will increase by up to 50%, mid-range cars by 30%. Even domestic junk like Ladas will rise 15%. To import a used BMW X3 for personal use, a Russian will now pay 1.2 million rubles in fees. A BMW X5, 3.2 million rubles. So these are increases of 50%. So, and this is all to pay for the war. So it's not only Putin's not only looting the banks by forcing the banks to buy the Russian bonds rather than issue mortgages. He's directly, this is coming right out of Russians' pockets, and how long until they notice? I don't know. Do Russians notice things like this? They don't seem to notice any of the genocide happening in Ukraine. Another sign that Russia is only sinking further into isolation and poverty by its own hands. And there's some specimens of fine Russian ingenuity there. Yeah, it's only getting worse and worse. And boy, this is a crazy story. I don't know if anyone was following this, but back in the summer of 2024, Russia tried to blow up some airliners over Europe. The Russian GRU built some bombs. They handed them to some guys they could trust that were related to the securities services, and then they went out to some sort of random people, and then they were mailed with hopes that they would blow up while the aircraft were flying over cities and things, because I guess Russians think that's like a normal thing to do. Anyway, this investigation in cooperation with security services of Lithuania, after a 6-month investigation, they found out exactly who did what. Really, the names of everybody. It's all traced back to the Russian GRU. You should check the article out. It's on Kyiv Insider. This is sort of a summary article. If you want the really in-depth article, go to V Square. It's right on the front page right now, and it goes into incredible detail of exactly how they did it. And it's not only the Russian economy paying the price now. We have China. So after these drone incursions and this Zapad 2025 military exercise that they did up there in Belarus, Poland closed the border to Belarus. And I guess China got upset about it because it's around $25 billion a year in goods that China runs along this route right here. It only takes 16 days. And then out into the European market, and they make all sorts of cash off that. The alternative is this months-long sea route, very expensive, long sea route, to get all sorts of goodies into Europe to sell them onto the high-priced European market. But now Poland has closed this border, and Poland, I mean, coming on the heels of being drone attacked last week by Russia, there was only 3 hours of negotiations, and Poland said, "Look, we're not going to open this border anymore. So unless you do something to pressure Russia," and that's where we are right now. And it's definitely an interesting development because if anyone has the power to lay the hammer on Putin's little gargoyle ass, it is China. And I'm really interested in how this story plays out. So far, Poland isn't giving an inch. I mean, they don't need this border open. So, yeah, let's see how it goes. Anyway, that's it for today, guys. All right, have a good day.